Hey, everybody. Welcome back into another edition of the DrBicuspid.com podcast. My name is Kevin Henry. I'm the editor in chief for Dr. Bicuspid and thrilled today to be joined by Matt Hendrick. Matt, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hey, glad to have you on. Excited to talk about today's topic. Before we dive in, love for our audience just to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, great. So my name is Matt Hendrick. As you said, I'm a co-founder of Elevate Dental Partners. We were founded in late 2019, and we were founded as a joint venture dental partnership group. And so we work with partners across several states in the United States to partner with them and provide support and resources to help grow their practices and relieve administrative burden.
Awesome. And you mentioned partnership, and I'm wondering, help me understand whenever you work with a dental practice, what does a partnership look like?
Yeah, so for us, there's obviously a lot of different forms that partnerships have taken as groups have evolved over time and things like that. For us, what partnership means is true partnership at the practice level. So whenever we're partnering with doctors, we're entering into actual partnerships alongside them to help support their practices. Typically, what that looks like is doctors still retaining significant ownership and equity in their practice and bringing in us for all the non-clinical support and resources for the practice. And so we really view ourselves not in a controlling role, but in a supporting role where we're basically the idea and execution engine for our doctors. I think a lot of times when our doctors are looking for partnership and select us to partner with, they're typically doctors that have already built really successful practices. They know, however, there's a lot more growth potential, but they're only one person and they're still chairside a lot of the time. And so we can really plug in and be that extension of their team to help provide support and resources to help take the practice to that next level, all while they still have meaningful ownership, autonomy, and upside in the practice.
Is there kind of a sweet spot in the dentist's career when they start looking for a partner like you?
It's actually become earlier than I think a lot of people realize or think. Our average age of partner doctor is about 45 years old. So I think it kind of ranges across the spectrum. But I think if you were to kind of generalize that, it would be a doctor that has been practicing for 15-ish years, has already built a very successful practice, usually large footprint multi-doctor. But like I said, they kind of are hitting a ceiling, and they know in order to break through that ceiling, it would either take a lot more time and effort than they're looking to put in at that time in their lives, or they need a partner to help them with that. And so I would say that's the typical time that we see partnerships. It can range dramatically. We have 35-year-old partners and we have 55-year-old partners.
One thing I'm always curious about whenever a dentist decides to partner with somebody from the outside, how do you see that changing the culture of the practice?
That's a great question and something we spend a lot of time focused on. I think for us, we kind of think about culture in two tiers. So we've got kind of the practice level culture of the individual practices themselves, and then we've got kind of Elevate's support team, we call it culture. And I think because of our partnership structure and the fact that we are partnering with very successful practices, we're not trying to change the culture of the practices. We're trying to foster that and provide additional support, but we're really not trying to change the culture of what made that practice great. Because the fact of the matter is we're only partnering with great practices. And so really the last thing we want to do is come in and impose our culture on that practice when it's really working well, and that doctor is still going to be a significant leader of the practice. On the other side, kind of elevates support. We do have a very strong support culture, and it's as we were kind of building Elevate, we were spending a lot of time thinking about this, and read a book called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, which is fantastic. It's about this idea of culture and values and what it means to have a strong culture. And one of the things it says is whenever you're selecting your values, like what do we really believe? The values you select, you should believe more than 99% of companies out there. So I think there are a lot of kind of foundational values and culture principles, but we really try to differentiate ourselves on our values and how we translate that into how we support our practices. And so as a result, what we tell all our practices at the time of partnership is, hey, here are our values, here's our culture. We're not looking to impose that on your practice, but we do think it's important that you know what that is for us so that you can hold us to those standards and hold us accountable. So our very first value that we strive for, cultural principle every day, is support. At our core, we are a support organization. And so we think it's very important that our partners know, hey, we get up every morning to support the practice. That is what we do. If you find times where we are not living up to that, you need to let us know. You need to know what that is. But in terms of practice level culture, we are really trying to foster what that doctor leader has already built in their practice.
So when you're partnering with a practice and we're talking about culture and values and everything, how important is it that those line up with what your company believes in as well?
Uh, it matters a lot. It matters a lot. I think for us, a lot of that has to do with, kind of the front end partnership process. So the 90, 120, potentially a year or 2 years before we're partnering with that doctor and getting aligned with what type of practice do they have, and what are they really looking for in a partner, and do we fit cohesively with what they're looking for in a partner. Because I think that's where I think partnerships can, start off on the wrong foot and continue kind of on that bad trajectory, is if you just aren't aligned from an expectations perspective on the front end. And I think a lot of that you can really tell through long-term conversations with those doctors and getting really to, get to know them, get to know what makes them tick, what makes the practice successful, and all those sorts of things.
So a question that I'm always curious about is your philosophy on telling the team whenever you're going to partner with an outside company. What's your viewpoint on when you tell the team and how you bring them in on that process as well?
Great question. So the way we have developed it, and I think this is really, I think, been really successful for us, is the team needs to hear it from the doctor first. And so usually a couple weeks prior to the actual partnership date, you obviously don't want to tell them too early in the process, but a couple weeks before the partnership date, we ask the doctor to talk to the team and just let them know the process they went through, the why behind bringing on a partner. Because of the partnership structure, they're typically doing it for the right reasons. It's to help the practice grow and thrive and all those things. So it makes that conversation pretty easy with the team, but it needs to come from the doctor. And so from there, we ask them, to also share with the team, hey, these guys are going to be coming in a few days' time. It's very, why don't you? There's clearly going to be questions that you guys have, and there's horror stories from different groups out there and stuff like that. And so it's very important that no questions are off the table and they have a chance to really ask us any questions that they might want to. And so typically a few days after that, it gives them time, it's enough time that they can really think through what they want to talk to us about, but not so much time that they're kind of ruminating on the downside and things like that. And so we'll come in, and I think that's just a really good chance for them to meet us as people. I mean, I think hearing any company's name, you kind of just associate it with, whatever it is, corporate machine or whatever. But really for us, we're very intentional behind, we're people. We're all people that are trying to show up to work every day and do the best for our partners and live out that culture of support. And so whenever we come into the team meetings, we want to make sure we bring our leadership team, our HR leadership, because that's obviously a really always top of mind for people. And we have, just a really open, honest discussion about, what the transition and what the partnership looks like. And I think the good news is, because of our structure, 99% of the changes are administrative in nature and not things that are actually affecting, like we were talking about, the culture of the practice. And so I think really what that ends up looking like is, hey, here's the handful of administrative changes that are going to happen. Everything else, they have changes about a lot of different things. The honest question is, whatever the doctor wants to do is how we're going to support the practice. And so really, those questions shouldn't be for us. They should be for the doctor in terms of what they've always wanted for their practice.
Do you find in those early days that the retention really falls upon the doctor more than maybe you coming in as the partner or vice versa?
No, absolutely. Well, I think it's both. I think that's a great question. I think it's both, though. We find that definitely the doctors that have strong teams, they've got long tenured teams that have a lot of trust in what they're building. Those tend to be very high retention situations and practices. But also, I think a lot of that is because of the structure, and the types of doctors we self-select into, which is doctors that aren't looking to hand the keys over to us and walk away. They truly are looking for just more support for their team. I mean, a lot of the times in the very initial partnership conversations that we're having with the doctors prior to the team, 3 months before the team ever finds out, the strongest partner focused doctors, they're always, some of their first questions are, what happens to my team? How can we protect our team? How can we support the team? And a lot of times it comes up like, I'm actually doing this for my team because I've become the bottleneck in the practice and I need an outlet for them to get more support and potentially growth opportunities and things like that. So we find when we can partner, or match our structure with that doctor's kind of intentions for what they want with the practice and that strong trust that they have with the team, retention's incredibly high.
Some great thoughts. And so if somebody has questions, wants to learn more, how can they find out and maybe reach out to you?
Yeah. So We're pretty active on social media, so we have across pretty much every social media platform. My Elevate Dental is kind of our handle. You can find us at elevate-dental.com, or you can reach out to me directly at matt.hendrick, so just first name dot last name at elevate hyphen.
And we're going to put all that in the show notes so it's real easy for you to find. So, Matt, enjoyed the conversation today. Thanks so much for the insight and the time.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Great questions, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode of the drbycuspid.com podcast. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, take care. And as always, we're wishing you nothing but success ahead.